DPS. And now, I don't have a leak. There we are. As for close range, you want max damage, tumbling master, extended supercharge, berserker, because for a simple fact is you actually want to be able to do damage while you're close range, and it's increased by 10% when your health drops below 35. And your health is going to be fluctuating when you're up close anyways. So that's a bonus. Escalating might for the 2% might every 8 seconds. Supercharged berserk. Just to actually get more power back. Restoring or replenishing adapter. As for the artifacts, people say that you can use Scribe the Soul Cloak, Eye of Gemini, and Solar Amplifier. To me personally, I actually like to have the Plasma Burn already on the targets. So the Eye of Gemini actually works for popping the supercharges, of course, when fully maxed out. The Verum actually grabs 4% might and 3% health. I don't run the Tetra because I know it's an option. I don't run the Tetra because I'm looking to do damage myself. I'm not looking to buff other people. And it's pretty much the close range. So what you're gonna need is obviously you want your Relentless Anger because it's your supercharged generator, so that way you can get your berserks faster. Severe Punishment because you're gonna be up close, you're gonna be taking damage, and also actually in DPS roll it gives you damage over time. So you got 2 plasma burns, you got one that's right here, and then this one actually increases the damage over time from Relentless Anger. So Outrage, Resonating Chain, Lazarate, and Berserk. Now as for the single target, if it'll switch, there we go. You can choose any weapon you want. I forgot to mention this in the first loadout. Grabby movement. You want heat vision and robot sidekick for this loadout. Not freezing breath. I took that because of my far range loadout. I'll explain that here in a second. As for stat points, you want super powered, critical attack chance, damage, and then the rest in the might and power. Now, as I said before, what works best for this particular loadout is actually having the plasma burn already on it. As for rage, plasma burn comes from this pack here, and it'll hit all of them at 160. I don't have it there because I'm a little slow, a little behind on the artifacts, but usually for this one you want to have empowered channeling so that way you can use your channel hate without getting interrupted. And like I said, plasma burn all still the same. For the trinkets and everything, you can run the seahorse or the booze. I actually found to be actually very useful to increase might. But I use the backup orbital supply and the might trinket itself. So, the best way to do the most damage when you're either up close or far range is actually to pop the trinket every single time it's off a cooldown. Now, as for the ranged, finally we're on the ranged. This is where the replenishing plasma rage comes in handy for the ranged loadout. As for this loadout, it's plasma rage, dreadful blast, freezing breath, like I said before, harmonic bombardment, and robot sidekick. Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know why that's there, but anyway. The rotation is plasma rage, dreadful blast, freezing breath, dreadful blast, plasma rage. The only time that you're using harmonic bombardment is if you're just getting, if you get knocked down, then you use harmonic bombardment. In other words, the actual rotation is actually 1, 2, clip, break out with your weapon, basically, and then back into it. That's pretty much all it is. I forgot to show you the loadout for the single target. Dreadful Blast. Dreadful Blast, Amplified Heat Vision, or is getting channel hate. Like it says vulnerable to interrupt, but if you're using your empowered channeling, it actually takes that eruption away. Robot Sidekick, Berserk. As for the tank build, I found out that people like to use Hardlight Shield as a rage tank. Me personally, I think it's actually kind of useless because when your healer dies, you want backup heals. So that's where Remorseless Recovery comes in. If your healer dies, you only got the 2 shields until they revive the healer. That's if they revive the healer. Most times people are actually scoreboard chasers, so it's best to actually roll with Remorse instead of a second shield, even though it does help from time to time, but it depends on the situation. Now, as for this one right here, it works better when you have the Mysticals of 7 because it increases your healing by 10%, plus actually with It goes up to actually 3 and you get increased. Excuse me. Increase defense by 3% with each enemy within 5 yards. Maximum is 15%. Alright, and everyone already knows what the steel refractor does. Manacles of Force is actually another good tank one, especially for when it comes to excuse me. When it comes to fire, rage, and ice. And the reason why I say fire, rage, and ice is because ice falls back on a lot of shields, and that's what Resolute actually cools down all of Ice's shields, which is actually pretty good. Also, what the Manacles of Force does is actually it absorbs 50% of incoming damage. What that means is actually you're taking damage for at least actually 3 to 5 seconds, and the cooldown of that part is actually can be reduced to 45 seconds each. On top of that, you're actually, if you take a huge hit and it damages you below 30%, it'll actually do an unshakable type deal where at least 3 to 5 seconds you're actually at the Mysticals of 7 to increase your healing received by 10%. Now, what I use for the white mods is absorption adapter. I mean, this character was Earth, that's why the supercharged envelop 3 is there. My bad, I forgot to switch it. Fortified assault. Oh, so that's why I haven't had a shield. Give me a second, guys. Let me fix this real quick. Absorption adapter, energize the residue chain, because for a simple fact is, it gives you extra power back when you pop the chain. See? I mean, you want that extra power back just in case you're running low regardless. Fortified assault, because for a simple fact is you don't really need to block with rage unless you're like in elite. So that's why I run the fortified assault. Accelerated redirect rage, so that way you can have your rage shield faster. Hardy, of course, because you want the extra health just in case a boss is like doing a skull attack. You want to be able to actually have enough health to actually survive that. And I forgot to change that as well, but anyway. Tumbling Master, so you can dodge some of the skull attacks. Basically what Tumbling Master does is if you're blocking and you roll, you can roll 2 more times. It's best used for tank roll and used for DPS. I've never found anything that can be more competitive to it. I mean, I've seen people use explosive block and deadly block. I mean, those are fine, but what happens if you actually get face to face with the attack that you can actually avoid? And it works best with kiting as well. Rejuvenation shielding. This one actually gives you when you pop your redirect rage, it gives you health for that shield. Every little bit counts. I've seen people actually use max damage. To be honest, you're not in damage roll, so I wouldn't recommend it. As for the trinkets, you always want the health trinket. You always want your breakout. You can use the personal dampening field, which is an extra shield. I mean, it helps. You always want your chronic emitters to actually stun the ants. That gives you a little bit of time, at least 3.5 seconds, to actually think of your next move. And that's what I use. Now, as I promised, I was going to show you the PvP. Now, this is actually the PvP, but I actually need to fix the loadout. Now, depending on your situation, if you want a tank, I recommend using Severe Punishment, Remorse's Recovery, Hardlight, Redirect Range, the Chain, and Vindictive. Vindictive is actually a supercharge just in case all this is on cooldown. And it's not very hard, it's very quick to get. Now, if you actually want a DPS in PvP, Violence, Severe Punishment, Remorse, Outrage, Revenge, and the Chain itself is what I found to be useful in PvP. This right here is pretty useful all the way around. If you actually don't want to run Remorse, just sub it in for like redirective range. That way, if you're like facing a quantum and they actually nerf your heals, you can fall back on a shield, because it's actually hard for them to, unless they're like really good, it's hard for them to actually nerf a shield. So there is that option. But like I said, this is what actually most people are using. I don't know about other people, but this is what I use, and I found out that it's most effective. If you're wishing to duel with rage, my advice to you is actually Gallon Eruption, Bloodlust, Hardlight Shield, Redirect Rage Shield, Violence, and Ire. And then, sorry. Would be Severe Punishment, Outrage, Revenge, Lacerate, and Chain. So when you're dueling, right around 3, when it counts down from 5, 4, when it says 3, I mean, you'll see a lot of rage tanks do that in duel fights. And this is a loadout they'll most likely be using. Some of them actually, instead of Lacerate, like to use Sonic Cry. And Sonic Cry is pretty useful. I mean, it dazes the enemies where they can't fight you for a short period of time. But why use that when you have an entire power set that you can rely on? It's kind of stupid that you have to use Iconics to me, but you guys can give it a shot if you want. But that's that's basically the dueling and the PvP side of Rage. I pretty much covered it. If you guys want to give Rage a try, you're more than welcome to. In the next video, I'm gonna do sorcery. I'll see you guys very shortly.